that was really powerful. And there's this thought I've been thinking about, or this idea that, like, basically the adage, there's nothing new under the sun or whatever. So Zora Neale Hurston has been a touch point for me as, like, a person from Central Florida. It's really been something I've reflected on forever, because specifically, like, Black folks from Central Florida, especially academic type of folks, and what being academic even means for, like, a Black queer woman, is something that I reflected a lot on. And on the trip, having a bunch of folks, like, all of us really having our own personal touch back to this artist. Some folks saying it was their favorite author. I brought all the books I had because my thesis was on Jamaican folklore. So obviously she was a large part of that.
Yeah.
And because it's a thesis and the way academia goes, I completely, like, dissociated and forgot everything I read about it and all the books I had.
Yeah.
So even just going back into my library and, like, finding my notes from that stuff and whatnot, was really moving to me. And also that everyone else had a personal story. One person, like, read a passage. All of our work, even if not directly, is influenced by her. And just, I think, the way that Black people specifically are really open to citing our influences that way. So.
No, completely. I think if you were a Black person in general moving in a wayward kind of fashion, just like on your own accord, she's an ancestor to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a Black femme that is invested in the power that academia can hold for liberating you from your original circumstance, she's an ancestor to you. Queer folks, we don't even know if she's actually queer, but we have definitely taken her on.
They
as
said
a
she
queer
was there,
ancestor.
and I was like, yep.
She hung out with the
But
girls
also,
and
what
the
is
gays, and that was
queerness?
enough.
Yeah, she
exactly.
was not. She was doing womanhood differently, as
Exactly.
all Black women do, queer people, non-binary people. So I feel like she would not have an issue with it, especially because that was one of the things we touched on too. Like, not only was she a renegade in terms of white society, academia, obviously, she was turning it up amongst her peers too, as she should.
Mm-hmm.
So
Links and
she
Hughes.
was very much like, we can have our own stuff. Like, in her poem, How It Feels to Be Colored Me, she was like, you deprive yourself of my company, baby. Like, it's fine. I'll be good over here. And I think she really carried that in a time where, for obvious reasons, people were really wanting to be integrated and have everything be together. She was like, that's all well and good, but we got it over here, which I always find, that was the first time when I was learning about, like, civil rights, segregation, slavery, that, like, someone would just outright, like, someone American Black woman was someone like, we can do this, like, we're good on our own or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, even the idea of, just this creative, this Florida creative having to go and do the exact same pilgrimage most of us have been forced to do, which is move to New York for more opportunities. I think there's so much that can even be said about the path if you actually study her life and see how this is, like, literally parallel to the experience that you're having. And yeah, I was able to do that with my own life. I'm someone that is constantly having to fly to different states for money, opportunity, advancement, while still making a very grounded effort that, like, I have work to do here. This is still the perspective that I'm moving within my work is from this on. I'm bringing my people with me along this journey as well. And as I read and, like, got more immersed in her story, you get to see a lot of the challenges that she had to go through with people just completely writing her off, being very classist about the lives of Southern Black people, let alone Black Floridian people, and the way that we talk and the way that we just carry ourselves. At the end of the day, if you're gonna judge us, judge the conditions, don't judge the people. And that was just so loud and just, like, still kind of wild that we're still going through that exact same thing today.
Right.
So, like, how, in terms of, like, when you were really engaging with that work, what parallels showed up for you
Well, like you were saying, that going to New York, because she was a major part of the Harlem Renaissance, like, I think there's a way that she has been erased, which honestly she was. Like, that's a large part of her story. The reason why we even know where this grave is, because Alice Walker had felt that she was one of their influences and made sure to go out and find her grave. By best guess, her grave, because even still it's a little bit murky, but I think like spiritually it's her grave. It probably is, but that's interesting too. So she put out an article in, I believe, 1975, citing her, like talking about how she was missing, basically talking about the idea of the artist being erased in life and then being remembered more, I don't know, not favorably necessarily, but more broadly after death. And she hadn't even got to that point because until this, that wasn't really the case. And I think what's interesting about Zora is that I feel like she was very aware that that was going to be the situation for her and was willing to leave New York still, willing to come back to Florida and work there, which, like, by the grace of God, not thinking I'm going to die penniless in, like, the, like, essentially, like, asylum or whatever. But at the same time, there is this thing when you're a Southern Black person, artist, someone who's from the South, that you have to leave it. And I only really write about it, like, about, you know, the Caribbean or Miami, Florida, Central Florida. And there is a level of, like, you're going to feel alienated, like, in the North describing those things. And I think it was really powerful to sit around with folks and not only read her work, but hear others' work. And there's an innate understanding of it, even if it's, like, a song, a dance, or whatever, like even photography, like Micah came and took photos, that there's just an innate understanding that comes with it, and I think she's a major part of the way we communicate that to each other.
Yeah, I kind of like associate her with like she truly is like, though she was such a modern woman of that time that it showed up in all the offerings that we had to give her to celebrate her. Like, she was a photographer. She was a recorder and musician. She has songs on Instagram now that have been uploaded that I think is really beautiful. And it was so beautiful to just see how, individually, how we showed up for her legacy. And I think that doesn't go unnoticed. I think Spirit is appreciative of that because at some point we all will have to go, and we would all hope that somebody still sings a song for us too. And it still does kind of like hold a bit of bitterness about her legacy too, that like this woman did have to die poor. This woman did have to have community, as we are still doing today, mutual aid and gather funds for her just to be buried and then still not have enough for a headstone. Yeah. So I think those are the little, like, she had to leave to go to New York to get opportunities, but I think there is a testament to the way that we really do love each other for real in the South, and we do have all of the mechanisms to really teach the world what it is to be community.
Right. And I think that showed up while we were there. I want to speak more about like the actual experience because it really was a testament to what we were going to do. Yeah. So essentially, I had to rent a van, and I was feeling very butch, very like I had to drive that.
Very grown woman.
Yeah, like so I went and got it, and it's Miami, so he was really late, and it was giving me anxiety. But then I was like, I'm with the people that are going to be okay. And, like, we're all going to be understanding of that. So we were chilling. We went to Panther, like, 2 hours, an hour late. It don't matter.
We were supposed to leave literally hours ago, and we're still in Miami lollygagging.
But we're together.
Got a smoke break in between, sip slow. Yes. I'm a full believer that we will always be where exactly we need to be. Yeah. So that was beautiful to collectively do that, like, CP time was having a beautiful day.
That was the whole energy of the day. Because then, of course, I'll take accountability. I was key doing my thing, didn't tell Akia where to turn, then made them go, like, in the dirt, and, like, it was too muddy. So we got stuck. And
we got stuck in the middle of the muck.
But it was so, like, I'm a real believer in, like, how we'll tell you how we interact with each other in conflict, and it's just like we know that it's not gonna help to freak out. So I like called AAA. They were like, it'll be forever. So we
and
Annie,
we have 10 motherfuckers with
yes,
us
yes.
that we cannot freak out.
Yes, so we're just chilling. But Annie's like doing like a dance or something,
shaking her little titties
like,
on the side of the world.
Sitting what 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different men. So,
yeah.
And not only on some creep shit. Like one of them was like
a Haitian guy, 2
and he
rednecks.
was watching, making sure we were okay. You could tell because he didn't have the tools, but he was like, ain't no way. And then one like semi-redneck, let's say blue collar.
Yeah,
and
blue
then
collar
some
worker.
real
MAGA. The MAGA energy was very
yes.
present, but Zora's was more present.
Yeah, but they got us out using a chain on the hunting truck or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
What's his name? RP Spider. Get justice for Spider.
Yeah, or whatever. But then they pulled us out, gave them a little money, as you should. Because, like, but you could tell they weren't expecting that. Like, that's like, I'll give it that. The South is the South does. Obviously, she has her issues. But people will stop and help you, even if they are the MAGA. It makes life complicated
We
sometimes.
were stuck for like 10 minutes tops.
We were not there long.
3 people stopped to save us.
Yeah. And then when the cops came, you could tell everyone was like, get the fuck on.
Yeah.
Because it was already like solved, which was funny. But then we went, we got there, and it was interesting because we were all so quiet.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of like queers who are like always
Naturally,
yapping.
yeah.
So like that's almost like more powerful than if we were really like.
Luz was on Ox.
Oh yeah.
Luz was on Ox playing all the soca jams, keeping us up.
I was gonna make them do a little, like, say a little something in a minute, but so that was like, it made me nervous at first, but then I was like, oh, this is like the power, like this is like what it needs to be, and even like the photos Amika took, someone was like, oh, we look like so like downtrodden, but it's like the opposite, like they were like, it's just you're deep in it, and I think like, you know, it's someone's grave, it's someone's resting place. It's a lot of people's resting place. So it was really interesting because I had not imagined it would go that way.
Yeah.
So that was something I really like took to heart as like, oh, stillness in silence is like when spirit talks more, obviously in exaltation and all that, but like in those quiet moments, like you should listen.
No, completely. And even then, like, we are navigating like this situation in modern times. Her car was still probably breaking down in the 30s and having to navigate traveling through the South solo as a Black woman in these exact same parts that we're in. And yeah, I really did I say it funnily, but I was dead ass that I felt like her spirit was with us the entire time because everything worked out.
Yeah. Absolutely, everything worked out.
And it felt like, I don't know, maybe because the age that I'm in and I have been able to experience close death to me, but yeah, the cemeteries are now like, they hold a pretty like sacred and safe space, low key, for me now, that like I felt fully at peace there.
Yeah.
We were laying down next to her headstone. There was beautiful moments of silence that did not feel awkward. No. And I just thought it was a really beautiful testament of
and I think
reverence.
For Black folks, that's what cemeteries are supposed to be. Like when I lived in New Orleans, I felt the same way. So I don't know, I felt like, and we shared too. It wasn't as if anyone was nervous to share anything like that. So I really hope she appreciated it.
Speaking of sharing, we have someone that was actually on the trip with us that we would love to have share, their experience.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone.
What's your name? My
name is Luz.
Where you from?
New Jersey, but I stay here.
Come on. Where your mama from?
Ooh, the Dominican Republic.
And
Honduras.
Clock that. So, you was with us through the entire experience.
Yes, I was.
You was the last one, too, to show up.
I was the last one. But
on time.
Period.
Always. But I genuinely want to know, your reflection on this entire trip.
Well, as Akia was stating earlier, I had come onto knowing and reading Zora Neale Hurston with my professor, Marina Maglor. We were in class together, and she, in Third World Feminist, and she was like, hey, I'm taking my class to go see the grave.
Yeah.
We got space. You want to come? And I was like, hell yeah. The fuck? Like, I should. Like, this is, actually, I don't even think I've really been into a cemetery. I used to live by a cemetery, but I never visited someone's grave. I think Zora's grave was the first grave I've ever visited. And so it was like completely powerful. And so when I came back, I was like, wow, I can't believe like I experienced something like that and with friends and a teacher. And so when Akia or Masisi and Islandia were just like, hey, we're gonna have this trip, I was like, I'm going again.
Yeah.
I'm going again, and I'm going with Black queer family.
Yeah.
And we're gonna really like show up for her and be like, yo, your like writing has impacted who we are and how we formulated like our sense of self in a way. Like this type of work, this like thinking of like going outside of like very like displacing narratives and like have like a Black person in America, a Black woman, go to the Caribbean, go to the South, and just like connect with people as people there. Like I think she was the anthropologist.
Yeah. Folklorist.
She was really good at just interviewing, talking to people, getting their story, getting their legacy. And I just feel like for that to be on record and to have it like in that time was like so precious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was full of like ups and downs, but it was no down was ever down. Like I really enjoyed myself.
Even the downs, we were still up. Like
we was still up. Like when we did that U-turn and we was stuck in the mud, yo, there was like 20 hands on that car. We was all like, all right, 1, 2, 3, and it did not go nowhere.
Neutral and all, nothing. We were actually digging our own grave at that point.
We were. We was in the mud. We was in the
For real.
It was getting worse. But yeah, no, it was really beautiful, like to have, especially in this time period where everything just really feels divisive and that, yeah, we don't know who to turn to but each other. Right. But I think humanity really like stuck out, and yeah, that still will probably live with me in our process for a while because yeah, we live in Miami. I'm not around white people like that.
Right.
I do not see like Cracker Jacks, like specifically like that all the time. And just, you know, I think if we lean into the media, that will also paint the narrative that these people also don't have humanity either in them. Right. So that also isn't fair. So like, it was just really nice to have that solace.
Right. And that's where I'm from. So not to say it really is, her book really did connect with me at an age because I really saw myself that way. Like I played in the woods. I went home for the weekend. That's like where I'm from. I was in like the canal or whatever. And it's a complicated thing because those folks will help you. And if they did know you, to know you is to love you. But on the other hand, maybe they get to know you and they completely fuck you over. So that's why I think we all like lean on each other and whatnot. Because why that situation was okay is because we were together, really. You know what I mean? So I think she does a really good job of that experience of being like a country Black person. And weirdly, as much as like you would think it's not a short history to remember we were all country Black people at one point, people forget that that's something in our culture, you know? So it's like, often when I write, I'm writing about like the woods or whatever the hell I was getting into. And even that it's like surprising to people, which is strange, you know? Yeah. I think it's more the erasure of Black Southern people than their existence. Because obviously a lot of people flee to urban sites. That's like how we know that. But not everyone.
And also, that is a pretty short of everyone who is existing in America, for the most part, history. Right. Great Migration was at most like a good 60 years ago. So everyone still has deep roots that connect them to these areas, but we are allowing ourselves, even when I hear people have this conversation around like, Americans don't have culture. No, we Black Americans sure as hell have culture.
America's culture
is Black American culture.
It's literally like it's black cowboys and whatnot, which we're obviously getting like a resurgence. But that stuff, they be doing that. Like there's a rodeo coming here in New Orleans. I see them stomping around the street. Just various things.
And just folk life.
Folk life, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what essentially she was looking into, because our stories are oral. The ways we do things are communal. So the only way you're ever going to get into it is to get into it. And I think especially if you've lived or been in school, I had a hard time with anthropology because I was like, what the fuck going on? But then it's like, you can do it right. Because she wasn't Jamaican, she wasn't Haitian. She just respected it and understood how to communicate with people. And that's a skill that I always say you have. Like, it's something God-given. Like, it's something everyone should strive for, but I also think there's folks that are touched to do that work, and obviously she was one of them.
And for that time period, she was the only person that probably could do that kind of work. And like, I'm seeing it from like perspective of like, even from her skin tone. At the end of the day, like more people throughout the Caribbean could relate to her and see themselves in her and feel disarmed than the folks that were currently at that time in academia. It was nothing for the work that she was doing was most likely for a light skinned or passing person of the time. So for her, and I think there's a connection and story that I love around Southern people. The South in general is a part of the global South. And there's a lot that we could be in communication with. At the end of the day, somebody in rural Homestead and in rural fucking Fort Pierce has more in common with somebody in Honduras, especially when we're talking about the conditions of the government not giving you what you deserve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As possible. So I really love that in that time period we had a black woman that showed up as Zora as a representation of internationalism.
Right.
And how black people, like, she expanded the way we saw blackness in that time
and
period.
not voyeuristically, because there's plenty of books about Caribbean practices, voodoo, da-da-da, that are just not only voyeuristic, but creating narratives that have existed until now that are straight up incorrect.
Yeah.
So I think that she knew what she needed to do. And also what I was talking about relating to her, she moved within the system she had to when she needed to. Like she worked for, I forget what it's called, but basically the project by the United States to have writers go around and document the different states. Yeah. Not like any kind of life, but they did it specifically with like out of work writers, which is an interesting term because as a writer, you're kind of always out of work and also not out of work. So I don't know how they determine that. But they went around and documented that. And it's really interesting that they like believed that she would be qualified for that. And that has to do, obviously, her innate talent, but the way that she was able to exist in that world, which I think she did it differently than some others because they were beefing with her all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you're not... I won't say she's an interesting person because she also came from a family of like a mayor, like a
Her
pastor.
dad was a pastor, and then he ended up moving to Eatonville as Eatonville was slowly becoming incorporated, and the people nominated him to be the mayor of the first incorporated black city in all of America, which is in Florida. So I think that piece gets so skirted over, and I don't see how y'all can try to erase someone that just naturally has history running through their lineage.
Exactly. And just that level of like, this basically all of our work, privilege versus not privilege, like privilege of being light skinned, but like going through on that adventure in which she did, having a nigga who ain't shit, you know, like that's
being
still gonna
exploited.
happen. But like at the other hand of it, she was able to do these things because of those privileges, get to these points. But even on the other hand of that, when she wanted to go to school for free, she had to be like, I'm 10 years younger. Only a black person can do that because what the hell? They were like, yeah, sure. Like, you know, so that way of dealing with the system is always interesting to me. And like, you might see it as like, in the end, well, she didn't have any money. I'm like, but she lived and she did what she wanted to do. So I think like, you know, but I wanted to start talking about new news.
Yes, what's up?
Just so we can talk about them.
What's up?
Let me see what I said. Hold on a second. New News is the New News Sweet Soul Food Restaurant in Fort Pierce.
Yeah.
Full name. When we were going, Akai and I are both of the Southern church tradition, so we not bringing people on a trip and not feeding them. That is not going to work.
Exactly.
So that was honestly one of the first things that we like got set in stone.
That was like a pillar in the organizing. Where are we going to eat?
Like obviously we're gonna drive y'all, cause like come on now. Also,
But-
a lot of y'all gay. I know y'all can't even drive, so we're gonna do that. But at the same time, we were like, we gotta get this food. So we started looking at like what the
local eateries.
yeah, the local eateries are. And I saw New News, and I saw Chef Patricia, and
I saw catfish.
yeah, listen, catfish, okay, oxtail patties, which I am literally Jamaican. I never heard of that in my life.
There was so many Jamaican restaurants in Fort Pierce.
Yep.
So even the testaments that you will find a Jamaican in every corner of the earth.
Right, and that's what Miss Patricia said. She said, which is not a problem. I'm not mad about it, but she was like, we're lacking soul food here, so that's why it became so popular. Because obviously, I consider Jamaican food my soul food, but I'm also Southern, so you know.
We know what actual African American soul food is.
Exactly. So we, I sent out a thing to order ahead because I was trying to, offset the colored people time activities that I knew were going to happen. But as they do, I can't ever stop that, which is my own doing. It was me. So what's up? But
they was late. We was late.
Yes.
Everything happened
But
on
they
time.
were right. And like, I actually wrote about this experience for Underbelly. So basically, that's what it was. They knew we were gonna be on bullshit, so they didn't start making it. And like, thank God they did, because it was fresh. Like
The ancestral
you know,
way.
like they were right. It was fine. And I even told him he got stuck in the mud, and I showed him a video. He said, I thought that was cap, and I was like, I would too. But here's the video. But essentially, we sent that out. It was wings, pork chops,
baked beans,
Yeah.
potato salad, mac and cheese, salad. They gave us free desserts.
Yeah, we'll get to that because I need to hear your comment. But basically, so yeah, all the classics. I like potato salad. You don't, but you know that's fine.
I love
You
potato
know?
salad. I don't like when people put mustard.
That's the Southern way, so I really don't know what
I don't like the
they're
mustard
talking
in the
about.
potato salad. That's too much.
That's some New York.
It's
But
tart.
anyways, okay. So we did all that. When we got there, you hadn't ordered, so you got something. Did you get fried okra or something?
I did get fried okra. I got catfish. And damn, something else. Mac and cheese.
Yeah.
That was for the table.
Oh yeah, but when
Yeah, we need that full menu. Cause I'm hungry
you listed
again.
it out already.
I know, but
you said we had the drink. We had
drinks. We had.
Okay, I can talk about the drink.
Check out that drink.
It was real sweet.
It was real
Real
sweet,
cold.
all the ice.
Right, melted in my mouth.
Catfish, baked beans.
The baked bean. Honestly, I was surprised about the mashed potatoes being sweet. Yeah. Or this potato salad. I was like, that shit is sweet. I've never had that before.
We had sweet potato pie.
That was the
That
best
was
thing.
good.
I had to make room.
So the star was definitely, well, I'll start off that someone on the trip was like, in the Google forum, which I love black people because they do not give a fuck. They're like, are we getting mac and cheese? And I was like, oh, hold on. Because the menu is ever shifting as a menu should, like seasonal.
Yeah.
So if you're in the neighborhood, you wake up, you go look at the or dry erase board and you see what's tea for the day. So that was that. But I was like, oh no, absolutely. So I bought us a whole pan for that, and it was like the best $50 ever spent. I don't regret it at all. It was so good. It was crusted up. It was so delicious. And because we were late as hell, we had a little something to snack on before. But okay, so they gave us some sweet potato pie, and when I tell y'all, I never had sweet potato pie like that in my life.
It was like pudding.
Yeah, it was like flan consistency.
Yes.
And yeah, they put in the best way. They put a good amount of sugar in there. It was so delicious. And yeah, it was, I don't know. That's just, usually I have it and it's like the puree kind. Because my family, if we're even doing any kind of Thanksgiving food, especially if I'm with my Jamaican family, that's about all that we're gonna get is like you're gonna get goat in a sweet potato pie. But it was so good. And then the other thing that they had was candied yams, which weren't like they came up with that morning or whatever, and they gave us some of that. So it's one of those things like I'm more than happy to throw y'all some money, especially because it's money I got from the company, you know what I mean? So
And it's Black History Month.
Yeah,
and it didn't
exactly.
show for like Black History Month all 28 of those days.
And we were really the only people in there that weren't just grabbing their stuff for the night or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were so kind. I believe Miss Patricia's son, I'll give a rundown of everyone's names when we're done because I got to look it up again, gave us the service. He did a wonderful job. They were tearing it up in the kitchen, and I thought it was really sweet when we were leaving. Everyone came out and was like, bye.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
And even they had like a little like almost like it's like a little graffiti wall, dry eraser of all the people that have passed through to eat there and what cities that they're from. And yeah, it was just really special that like, you know, this, in my opinion, like this is what a modern day Eatonville would have looked like.
Right.
Like we didn't get to go all the way up there. That was 3 hours away.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Jack Boy was there the next week because I was looking on their page, so they're really about it.
No, and also I really loved our digestion era. We are just walking around this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just a big U.
Yeah, I needed that walk.
Yes.
We needed that walk, especially because y'all was gonna drive, and like all the way we was eating, and it was so beautiful. It's like we were walking in Fort Pierce, like not just like planned stops, but like literal like intermission moments where we were just like talking and tuning into each other and like really taking in our environment and the neighborhood. And I think when we turned like on the other side of the block, there was like a lazy river.
Oh yeah.
And a retention pond. And I just, I remember walking so close to the water because I was just like, let me see what's in there and also how deep it is.
Yeah.
And it was like not even level ground, and we were just like in sync in our surroundings. And I think a few of us even grabbed some pine cones, which I still have. I put on my altar because I'm like, this is beautiful. I love like having mementos from like the places I've been. And and then when we circled back to news, it was like, bye y'all, because we had to, somebody forgot something.
Yeah.
Everybody got to use the bathroom.
Exactly.
And we were like, extra love to y'all, because it was just like, I think like the car ride there was warm. Going to Zora's was warm. People were reading, being vulnerable. Eating was warm, and then like the goodbye was also very tender. I felt like.
No, it definitely was. It felt like a childlike healing going on this field trip with like my adult friends. And I want more of that. Like, this is the kind of trips, like, even from this trip, I learned that Zora Neale Hurston has an elementary school named after her in Tamiami, Florida. So, yeah, like, this trip was the gift that kept giving in so many different ways. And, yeah, and now we're here recapping it on Masisi Radio.
Right. And I love, like, again, you're from more northern, I'm from more northern. Like the pine cones, even that, it's like that's something I grew up with. It's nice to see, And even like it's funny because like a retention pond is very normal, like Florida stuff, and it's literally just like runoff. But it's magical when you're a kid. Like that feeling you're saying is exactly how I felt as a kid about something that would probably be considered, if not mundane, at least just entirely practical or something. So I think doing that experience together and just like walking in hordes of black folk and no one being like worried about that, just like, hey, from like around the town, and we're grown, so it's like nice to see, and that kind of energy.
And also all of us being very visibly queer black people navigating the space. I'm sorry, like, we're a walking revolution, because these are the things that if you read the internet alone will tell you that we don't exist, that these experiences don't exist, and that we are all
that it wouldn't have been impossible, that we wouldn't have had Good Samaritans if we were walking around. People would be like, if not, what are these black people doing? What are these weird ass looking people doing? Like all that kind of thing. But no, I didn't feel that way about anything. And even when I was explaining what we wanted to do to New News, they were just like, yeah, of course. You know, like there wasn't, if not something that happens often, something I'm sure they would like to have happen. So y'all, if you organize your trip to go down there, hit up New News. But I wanted to shout out the folks that work there real quick.
Yes.
Okay. So, chef owner Patricia McNair Earns.
Clink, clink
when
for
I
her.
called, I spoke directly with her, so that's always a good sign that they get involved. Marketing manager Levi Dixon and fry cook Antonio Keith, I believe.
Period.
But
church announcements. Come on.
Yeah. But it was great. And, well, you know, and but yeah, it was a great experience, and I hope that that becomes a regular part of the visit, because I think it was imperative to the whole situation, and just a gentleness with someone, especially like me, who gets anxious about planning. It couldn't have gone better in terms of just everyone being so gracious and chill about the ups and the downs and all of that. And I hope that we can, maybe we ask people where they want to go, think about that kind of thing, because this is something I definitely want to continue as we grow our community activities and spaces. We need to turn up, but we also need to turn down.
Completely.
You know?
For me, this just added a beautiful landmark in our modern Green Book. Because at the end of the day, it is still not going to always be safe for niggas to be going through the country, let alone the South, let alone queer and visibly queer people maneuvering the space. And that was a beautiful one to add, to say, this is actually, this is one of the safest I've felt amongst a large group of queer black folks in the South. So this is a safe space for us too. So, you know, I want to say, what are some like final reflections on our 3 parts?
Well, I had some things I was thinking.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. You know, I have my little notes. Okay, in terms of like I'm going to call it a theory or something that I've been working with. It's from my friend Amika reposted it. Black Power Barbie, get into her. But it says, you think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. And that's what James Baldwin said. And that's what I've been thinking about in terms of not even just the pain and the heartbreak, but the joy. It is such an honor to me to be living not an individual experience, to be at a grave and hear people talking about how this was their, I don't know, like awakening to art or something at like 11 or 12, because it was mine. We read this in school where I went to school. And just the idea that like, especially being queer, I'm disabled, being black, it's like you think your experience is so like not of anyone else's. And I think that you're supposed to want it to be that way in, you know, capitalist individual society. But I love that. I love that everyone was like, this book I have dog-eared. This is like why I started thinking about this. I learned, shout out to Annie, more about Obeah, which is like the spirituality of Jamaica, which I had a really hard time researching when I was doing my thesis, because my people don't play about that kind of thing. And like just having that opportunity to be in a space of people who have put that time into that type of research or whatnot, because that's how it gets done. And that's the work that Zora did. Zora did the work of doing that research, not only to share, but to start off the processes or the, I don't know, like method of doing those things. And me and you talk about that. Everything we do, I want it to be a method for other folks to do. It does not need to be Masisi, Islandia, everything. Please. Like, that's
do
not.
It too.
And even if you have like an idea, again, I will help you write a grant. I try to tell y'all. That's like something I want to do for the people. So I don't know. I think just that went so smoothly and was so uplifting at the same time. I just hope that other folks can get involved in that type of thing. And like, if you're feeling a type of way, somebody around here is probably feeling the type of way. And I think that to me is the through line that's like gets me through the day.
You know, I completely resonate with that, because even while like we're discussing her, I'm thinking about just like the kind of year like Black Floridian folks have had, especially in the literary world, with literally our own, this is sacred text, being banned. Like a lot of the books that we grew up reading in school, a lot of the books that we are currently trying to like put in our own communities are books that the state does want to ban from us to have access to. So I do believe that these kinds of spaces that we create for ourselves are the ways that we get to keep our history alive through time, through discrimination, and without access. So yeah, it doesn't have, the work doesn't have to stop with Masisi and with Icelandia Journal doing these kind of collaborations. Like, you should now be able, because you now know where her gravesite is, you should take 10 more people, and they take 10 more people, and that's how we bring more awareness to someone that is literally being forgotten in time.
Yeah, second to all of that, because ditto. And visiting a writer's grave has been so influential to my reflection process as a writer and as a reader. It's been, I don't know, a fundamental tool to discover myself and to discover others as well, because sometimes communicating can be so challenging. Growing up with like all the opposition that you face as a child, as a Black person, as a queer person, or a little person, like growing up and like seeing the thoughts of like our ancestors and of our peers, and hearing everything that they've tuck into the world and have willingly expressed to share, has a way of just connecting you to a broader consciousness. It does make you feel alive. It makes you feel alive to do that with other people too, like not as a solitary practice, but as a like collective, we're taking in what someone has said, and not in a way that's like inherently like there's some superiority implied in that. Right. There is no superiority, because at the end of the day, it's like another human being taking in the whole world and knowing that's the journey that you have ahead of you. And that there are other people like expressing that for all of us to like tap into and like replicate in our own work and our own image. It's just so special. And something about field trips and collective traveling, we need to make a map, so like take this as a call, and everybody just rent a van. Be a dyke for a day, rent a van.
Turo, they don't really credit check. You just gotta.
Sex does sell.
Yes, sex does sell. I was thinking about flashing. I'm like, am I that crazy? No.
No. It was literally.
No, I was like, let me. But Annie, our friend,
and
Annie,
I think Zora would support you.
She would.
Yeah. So.
Let them know.
Yeah. Also on some like reflections too. If you have never seen There's Eyes Watching God, you should. The movie is gorgeous. Oprah spent her time and coin to unearth that and put that into film. Halle Berry is literally playing Rainey, and Mikey Ealy, beautiful self, is also being the character's love of her life, and it's just so nice. I'm always excited to see real Florida aesthetics and our natural environment be reflected on film as something that is beautiful. So, and to see Black people engaging with the natural environment is beautiful. So if you've never seen There's Eyes Watching God, do that.
Yeah, and I think to what you were speaking to, everyone on that trip was also connecting to each other, planning things to do, skill sharing, and all that stuff. So it's the experience, but it's also the connections. And we're all artists, so we're all going to naturally start building something the minute we start talking. So, yeah, I agree. I think start somewhere, start with something you want to do with people and see where it takes you, because I wouldn't have guessed all of that stuff. Now I know someone doing burlesque. I know someone doing, like, printing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Micah took beautiful pictures of this. So now we have all this stuff. And yeah, I don't have to carry it on my back. Y'all don't have to carry it all on your back. We can work it out together.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, on that note, see y'all later. Happy 305 day. Hug a Miami person. Kiss a Miami baddie. Like, you know, you're blessed for it. So, yeah. Happy birthday, Miami.
Thank you.